Welcome to the Vin and Mike show, episode 2 here. I am your host, Vin, one of your hosts. Of course, I'm joined every week by Mike. Mike, how are you doing?
What's up, Vin? That wasn't an exciting weekend of football, was it? It was boring as hell.
Yeah, I fell asleep at least 3 times on my couch with that weekend. But in all seriousness, that was an amazing weekend of football, and we're going to dig into that right away. But at first, let me introduce our special guest host this week, a great friend of mine, someone that I know for 10 years now, as we were discussing pre-show. Great friend Andrew Vigliotti. Andrew is the owner of ViggyBets, which is a great service where he shows you over-unders on college basketball, where he's like the GOAT of it. He does what's called no runs first inning, NRFI. I think he was about 60%, Andrew, accurate on that, or was it a little more?
55 for the season. Then I created my little system I can go into a little bit more. Not too much, or I'd have to kill every listener. But then the second half of the season, once I unveiled it, it was about 63% hit rate.
Yeah, so really good service. He's got a whole VIP portion of that service. Has a huge Twitter following at ViggyBets. He's just recent to Instagram at ViggyBets, so you can
Still
catch
learning
that.
that.
Yeah,
still learning that.
Yeah, it's a little different than Twitter, right? I mean, Twitter I think is a little easier to get things out, but yeah, I mean, we're gonna really dig into some real good betting today with Andrew and really get into the games from this week and last week, and then really talk about betting in general. So I'm really excited about that. But Mike, let's start off with that tremendous game that ended the weekend, that Chiefs-Bills game, and give me some of your insights on what you saw.
Well, I mean, it was definitely the game of the weekend, and that's saying a lot because there are a lot of great games out there. The two quarterbacks, Allen, Mahomes, they were both fantastic. And people were talking about how, I think it was Colin Cowherd actually, how back in the 80s you had John Elway come along and all these prestigious quarterbacks in 83, and now you have this battle in the AFC as well. I mean, it was fantastic. They were both incredible. What I noticed, what I liked, Vinny, at the beginning of the game was on the first drive, the Bills had the momentum. There was a 4th and 2, which they decided to go for, and then they went on 4th down again, scored a touchdown. I think Singletary scored. That really, I think, set up the game and the momentum, and just you knew it was going to be a great game. Back and forth action. I mean, it was just incredible. And how about Gabriel Davis with 4 touchdowns for the Bills? It was incredible. And the agility of both Mahomes, it was just incredible. I just back and forth action till the very last play. But I think we're going to dive deeper into it. I think I told you before in the last podcast that the winner, this was like a Super Bowl right here. The winner of this game, I feel, was going to go to the Super Bowl and potentially win their Super Bowl, because that's the kind of game it was. Allen was again, he has nothing to be ashamed of. He played a great game. In the overtime, when we got into overtime, we'll talk about this more. It was just a shame that he didn't have a chance to match Mahomes because of the NFL overtime, which a lot of people have been talking to us about. Should we, what's going to happen with that, with a game like this? Can rules be changed? And it was just anticlimactic at the end, the way it happened for the Bills. But like I said, Allen, he should hold his hat high because he played such a good game and he was unbelievable. They're both stars in my opinion. It was a great game. It was great for the NFL. And I'll say one other thing too. It was great with everything going on in the country right now. I think people really need to see this. Even if you weren't a true football fan, people tuned into this game and just said, wow, this was incredible. All the back and forth action, just unbelielievable. So.
Yeah, I mean, to jump on your point about those 4th downs early, I thought the Bills knew that Mahomes was going to be tough to keep out of the end zone all day, and they knew they have to strike for strike, and I think that's why they were aggressive early. They were going for it on those 4th downs. They knew that it was going to be a touchdown for touchdown kind of game, and that's that's what you saw. But I just want to talk about the last 13 seconds of that game, which to me is the big factor in the whole thing. And I'm just going to give you my point of view on what I saw, and listening to what Tony Romo said, which I thought right away. I thought they should have squib kicked to kick it off. I didn't see Tyreek Hill back there, which I was a little surprised that the Chiefs didn't put Tyreek Hill on that kick return, because I thought maybe if something was returnable and the fastest guy on the team, maybe you want the ball in his hands. But they kicked it out of the end zone. They gave Mahomes to start on the 25. The first play to Hill was a nice play. It was almost like a 5-yard screen kind of action kind of play, and they headed downfield with that, got to about the 40-yard line. Now, here's what I found interesting. It was about 8 seconds to go at that point. Kansas City still had 2 timeouts. Buffalo set their defense up like they were guarding the sidelines, like Kansas City didn't have any timeouts left. And if you watch Kelsey's play again, he starts a little closer to the line. His first move is breaking to the left, like he's going to go to the sideline. They played coverage where the cornerback was guarding the sidelines, let him go up the seam, hit him right down the seam. There was zero coverage at that point. And then Kelsey, once he got close to the defender, went down. And you see, I tell you, Kansas City, I think about 5 or 6 different guys called timeout with 3 seconds. They were very well aware of the clock. And I think the other big thing in that was what people forget, and he probably would have been vilified today, no one's even talking about it, is Butker missed that extra point in the game, and then he missed the 50-yard field goal before the half. Lost 4 points, kicking, but he makes the big 49-yard field goal. They win the coin toss. They score pretty easily in the game. And, as far as the overtime rules, this has been going on for a long time. It went on in the Super Bowl with New England and Atlanta. It went on in the AFC Championship game with New England and Kansas City. There's other, it's been the way it is. I mean, do you get, in the playoffs, do we change the rules? Maybe give each person a possession no matter what, and then sudden death after that? I don't know. It's hard to say. Or do you go, I don't like the college rules for overtime, especially in the NFL. I think it's a little too much. But I think, the rules are the rules, and that's what everybody knows going into the game. I'm almost inclined to say maybe not even have a coin toss for overtime. That part of home field advantage is you automatically start with the ball in overtime, maybe give a little advantage, to home field. Similar like baseball, right? You know that you got last licks when you're the home team, so maybe something similar to that aspect. But Josh Allen, like you said, he has nothing at all to hold his head down. The guy threw 9 touchdowns, no interceptions. In two games. He was 77% completion percentage in those games. He rushed, I think, 60-plus yards in both games. He willed them on his back, scored touchdowns. 25 points were scored in the last 2 minutes of the game or something like crazy number.
It was crazy. Yeah.
Crazy.
So Andy, I know you have a lot to say about this, and I'd like to hear your view.
Yeah, no, it was fantastic from the get-go, and we kind of expected that, right? I mean, the 3-touchdown win for Buffalo back in the regular season, I don't think anybody was expecting that kind of a performance either way. It was going to be a close game, and it was. And kind of you guys touched on, how great Buffalo was, how great Josh Allen was. I don't need to harp on that. We all agree there. But regarding the overtime rules, they've changed it once already. And there is the element of sudden death in there that I think the NFL wants to keep. And the reason is that, especially in the postseason, is because if you have a potential overtime where it just goes back and forth, Exhibit A being the Raiders Chargers, back the last week of the regular season, which as a Steelers fan, I was about to pull my eyes out, by the way, knowing that scenario. You don't want that scenario in the postseason. The NFL doesn't. It exposes more injury risk that could hamper the future games, right, in the postseason, and it gives a competitive disadvantage to whoever wins that game in a potential long, drawn-out overtime scenario going in the next week. So I think the NFL is going to keep it the way it is. They changed it to give, some compromise to a team where it's not just a sudden death win on a field goal. Ultimately, the defense of the Bills was Swiss cheese at the end for being the number one defense in the league the whole year. They really let themselves down at the end, and it's about making a stop. I mean, when it all comes down to it, they were the number one defense in the league, and they couldn't stop Mahomes at the end. And if you want to beat the best, if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. Yeah. And they nearly did. But it's a 60-minute football game, and they were winning after 59 minutes and 47 seconds. And they didn't close it out, which they should have in regulation. So that's the risk. You go into overtime is the sudden death. And I think the overtime rules are just fine. Everybody's complaining. It depends on what team you're affiliated on with how you feel about the rules today. So.
Yeah, I think I said this about the Bills' defense a little bit. I feel they were a little overrated because of their matchups all season, right? They get to play Zach Wilson twice. They got to play Tua twice. They got to play Mac Jones, who had a good year, but still a rookie. Played him twice. They played a Saints team that had no quarterback at the point. So so I think their pass defense, especially with Tre'Davious White going out with the ACL injury, I thought those were factors to me that I thought Kansas City was going to be tough for them, with Mahomes and all those receivers and everything. But at the same time, they had their chance to really make the stop, and they just didn't. They didn't do it at any time. So. That's the way I felt with that whole thing. But the other thing is, I don't want to take anything away from Kansas City here. Mahomes is in his fourth straight AFC championship game. He's been a full-time starter only 4 seasons. So that means every single season he has been in the AFC championship game. They've gone to 2 straight Super Bowls, potentially a 3rd straight Super Bowl. This guy's, has got 1 foot in Canton already. He's heading there. And Andy Reid, going to his 9th championship game.
I was wondering how many.
As a coach. Yeah. He had 5 with the Eagles. And
it always seems they're consecutive too. I think
they are
4 consecutive or 5 consecutive with Philly.
Yeah.
And now he's doing this run in Kansas City. So.
Yeah, he had the 4. You're right. He had the 4 consecutive. Then I think they missed a year, and then he had the Arizona one, and then now he's got 4 in a row with the Chiefs. And he's the only coach in NFL history that's won 100 games with 2 different teams. Wow. So he's 2 games away from that immortal Canton himself. It's almost like
I think he's already there, but getting another one would cement it.
Oh yeah, that's like it. It's almost like Belichick is Brady and Andy Reid is Peyton Manning in the way their careers have lined up, right? Like Belichick's won all the Super Bowls and Andy, gets there, but he doesn't get there, all the time. Then finally he'll squeak out maybe that second win with the second team, the whole thing. But really impressed with Kansas City again. They had such a tough start to the season. They didn't look like the team nearly that they were, and they've really kicked it in high gear. Hill and Kelsey are amazing. Byron Pringles found a way for himself. They bring McKinnon in, who basically didn't play all seasons, had a really good postseason. I think this Chiefs team is going to be tough moving forward. Mike, any other thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I just want to say there was a time in the game where Pringle scored that touchdown. They went up 23, I believe, 14, and then the Bills came right back. They had 75 yards in 7 plays. I mean, that's the kind of game it was. It was just back and forth, and when one team would go forward, the other team would strike back. I was just so impressed with Mahomes too. You know, that sidearm pass that he did.
Yeah.
He just has such a vision on the field that he just it's like it's electric. He could find somebody. He makes an amazing pass. He just has such vision. He knows when to run the ball and rush. Allen too with the rushing. I mean, they're both incredible. They sacrificed. The Bills at one time, they had a 4th and 14, a 4th and 7. I mean, again, two leaders of the team. And I agree with you, Vinny. I think that KC is going to be very difficult to beat, especially with the Cincinnati team coming in of a quarterback that was sacked 9 times with that offensive line. I think it's going to be quite difficult, but we'll see. But great game, great for the NFL. A lot of fun to watch, and couldn't believe that ending.
Yeah.
One more final thought on the Bills. On the Bills side is Gabriel Davis. What a game he had!
4 touchdowns. I mean, come on.
And if he was, he's definitely solidifying himself as a go-to receiver in the league. I mean, it helps to have Josh Allen as the quarterback, but and I am also happy I have him stashed as one of my bench receivers in one of my dynasty leagues now. So I have
That's
that
right.
to look forward to next year.
Yeah, and I think he it's Stephon Diggs on the other side that really helps him a lot. You know, if they're going to double team Diggs, he's going to get a lot of those single coverages. And I think Buffalo, they should keep their heads held high. I know the fans are probably really suffering today. It was a very, very tough loss, but there's a lot of positive moving forward. They have a very young quarterback, a young core. I think they'll be right back there next year. And then talking about next year, and I want to dig into the 2 guys that lost this week that are rumors of, will they return? What's going to happen? And Tom Brady, we can start there, and we can start with that game. The rush by the Rams and the lack of offensive line on Tampa really took a toll on Brady early in that game. He found a way with all the fumbles. Cam Akers was trying to fumble that game away, but that pass rush, they hit him multiple times. They did a tremendous job keeping him in check. He was down two of his best receivers. Mike Evans did all he could. I thought they did all they could. But, moving forward, I don't know much more what Tom Brady thinks he can do, and should he come back at 45, he would be the first player in the history of football to start a game at quarterback at the age of 45 if he comes back next year, which is incredible. But he didn't miss a beat. He didn't, I wouldn't be surprised if he did come back, but I think it's at the point now. I mean, what more does he have to prove? But what? Let me hear your thoughts, Mike, on Tom Brady.
I know that the question is, what does he have to prove? But I think at the end of the day, he just enjoys the game of football, and age is just a number. And yes, you could say, hey, he's won two Super Bowls with different teams. He's done everything he can as far as every season. He's playing great football. What he did yesterday, it was almost another Brady movie. What happened yesterday? They almost did win despite their injuries. I could see him coming back one more time only because the way he lost this year. I just feel like he just wants to give it one last chance, but we'll find out soon. I mean, he hasn't missed it. Again, he's playing great football. If he wasn't playing good football, I could see him just hanging his hat. He's still playing great. He still loves the game of football. And I do hope he comes back. I think he's great for football. I don't see any decline, but I think he loves winning. He loves the game, and we'll see what happens.
Were you shocked that there was any kind of rumor, before the game that came out on him? Because you never usually hear Tom Brady rumors of retirement, or he usually keeps all that stuff, behind the scenes. You never hear it impact the game. Were you shocked at all that leaked in any way yesterday?
A little bit, but the press. I mean, it's any kind of story, but you're right. It hasn't really been talked about before. It's been quiet, but I don't know. I think this is 50-50. I think this could go either way. the way they lost yesterday, again, he has nothing. Just like Josh Allen, Brady did everything he could yesterday to get that team back. He did what Tom Brady does best.
Yeah.
Question is, does he want to go out like that? And the other question is, people, like I said, Vinny, people keep bringing up, he's going to be 45 years old, but he's playing like a 25-year-old.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So at the end of the day, he's still competitive. He's still crushing it. And you know what? If he enjoys the game, let the guy play. I think it's just up to him and his family and what's going to be best for him. But I think he's great for football. It's always. I mean, I'm saying that as a Jet fan. That's hard for me to say, but I have respect for Tom Brady. I do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Yeah, and you're right. He's going to probably finish second in the MVP voting. So he hasn't lost a step at all. Andy, the end of that game with the Cooper Kupp cover zero defense there by Tampa, I thought that was a terrible defensive call there at that point. What were your feelings when you saw Kupp make that catch?
Well, it's one of those things where Kupp was just dominating the whole game, from a receiver standpoint, which is not surprising because he dominated all season. You would think that Tampa would put a little bit more attention on the fact that, they got to drive the ball down the field, right, to be able to get a chance to get a field goal. And they just did, pretty much went all out, all or nothing. And Stafford, to his credit, was able to complete it. And, the thing about the Rams right now is they have so many different options to throw to. The addition of Odell Beckham has really, really helped their receiver room. If anything, it's taken the pressure off Van Jefferson a little bit to step up and has allowed him to kind of be, continue to learn and continue to not be in the spotlight, but, not face the top corners in the game. So you have Kupp and you have Beckham. And, before it was Beckham in the first playoff game, and now it was Kupp yesterday. So they really have a multitude of weapons to be able to throw to. Now, this coming week will be interesting. I'm sure we'll get into that, is how will they defend San Francisco, and how will they squash the demons that is San Francisco, as they really haven't been able to beat them in the last 3 to 4 years. San Francisco has really dominated that series. So we'll see how that plays out. But from the purpose of this game, they were up multiple touchdowns, and Tampa Bay comes back in Brady-like fashion to tie it up. And here we are, and just going down the field and just pretty much shutting up Tampa right at the end after they got all that momentum was pretty darn impressive.
Yeah,
who's been at the multitude of it all year gets it done there.
Yeah, and if anyone knows me, Matt Stafford is not my favorite quarterback. He's a guy that I just think has failed miserably, and he's continuing to prove me wrong. I thought he was great yesterday. Thought he made all the passes when he had to. He didn't make any mistakes at any time yesterday. I thought he was phenomenal. The other thing, when you bring up Beckham, I think Higbee has really benefited from Beckham on the field too. The middle of the field seems to be wide open. Stafford's taking advantage of the tight end in that situation also. So it's been pretty impressive. But I want to move on to Green Bay here and talk a little bit about not only the game, but what your feelings are, Mike. Aaron Rodgers moving forward. Do you see him going back? Do you think Matt LaFleur is one of these guys that is really that great of a coach, or has he benefited from Aaron Rodgers? What your whole feel on the Packers and this Rodgers situation?
Well, the Packers are going to have to make a lot of changes because they're $40 million over the salary cap, and then you ask yourself, well, where's Rodgers' head? And he specifically said in an interview that he doesn't want to go to a team that's rebuilding. But just by body language, the interview, I really don't see him back. I don't see him back in Green Bay. And just a little bit, about the game, how everyone was blaming special teams. A lot of it was Rodgers. I mean, you come in as that seed, you got to produce. And people just say he's been a regular season quarterback, and I just feel like, I don't know, his heart's not in it with Green Bay anymore, and I feel like he's gonna want to make a change. The question is, can him and LaFleur stick together? I'm not sure. I just feel like there's going to be some changes, and I think he's going to be out of Green Bay next year. What do you think?
Yeah, Green Bay's, he's still under contract, so they most likely would have to trade him. I don't see them trading him to an NFC team unless they blow him out of the water.
Mm-hmm.
I think the AFC, there's some really good options there. I think your team out there in Pittsburgh, Andrew, might be really interested in him.
Here's my thought about that.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to hear.
It would be too smart of a decision by the Steelers front office brass to make such a move like that. And I'm not talking about just at the quarterback position. I'm talking about canning Matt Canada's ass, if I can say that word, because he's terrible, and just the offense itself. I get that the offensive line was terrible in Pittsburgh, but just such a pedestrian offense. You're not throwing the ball more than 2 yards down the field for the first 3 quarters. It's just pathetic. But yeah, no, that would be too good of a move and too smart by the front office. I don't see it happening.
Yeah. But I do agree with you, Mike. I think if he's coming back, Rodgers, I think he's going somewhere else. I don't where that is. I don't know. Denver's a good spot. I think he's going to look for a place where they have established receivers. Good offensive line, of course. Good, and a team that can compete. He does, like you said, he doesn't want to be part of a rebuilding situation. So
how about Miami?
Maybe Tennessee even, right? Tannehill, threw that game away for them. So, but you're right. Miami's a really good spot. Waddle is a star, and they got Parker.
You can bring Devontae Adams down to Miami. Devontae's a free agent.
Yeah, I would expect the Packers to franchise Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
I would think they would be out of their minds to let him go.
Yeah.
That guy is an amazing receiver. But yeah, you're right. There's a tremendous amount of options for him. But my feeling is, I think he's done with the Packers. I think he felt slighted when they drafted Jordan Love that year. He was expecting a receiver in the first round. They've never drafted a receiver in the first round his entire time there as the quarterback. He, was a very big receiver class that year. He was expecting them to take somebody, and they took his replacement. And I think ever since then, he's made it a point to get himself set up to move somewhere else, and then prove them wrong that taking Jordan Love was not going to be the right move for them. So I think that's where his head is. I think you're right, where his head is not in Green Bay, because I think his head is in beating them moving forward. So we shall see, but that's my feelings on it. I want to get into these other games that were on Saturday, which feel like they were 3 weeks ago because of everything. And we jumped a little bit there on the Packers and game. But I want to talk a little bit about this Cincinnati Tennessee game, and really dig into what you saw from Ryan Tannehill, feelings on Joe Burrow getting sacked 9 times and still being able to make a big pass to Jamar Chase when it counted. Andy, I know you're the NFC North guy. You watch a lot of the games. You follow a lot. Sorry, AFC North. You follow a lot that goes on. With that division. I'd like to hear some of your feelings on Burrow and the Bengals moving forward here.
Oh man, I put myself on record with this as a Steelers fan. I might get thrown out of Steeler Nation, but this Cincinnati team is fun to watch, and they're likable. And I've never said that with a Cincinnati team, obviously, before, when the likes of Burfict were there on defense and some of the other characters. But, this team is actually likable with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. They're just electrifying to watch, just as a fan of football. And, I'm sure we'll get into the gambling aspect of things in a little bit, but I picked all underdogs this weekend on the teaser front, and that worked out beautifully. And because I knew that these games were going to be right down to the last minute, kind of games, where if I'm getting 10 plus points for each underdog for each teaser, it's going to be easy money. And that's exactly what happened. And, Cincinnati was the start of that. They just played extremely well. They outplayed Tennessee on pretty much every level except for, the offensive line on the defensive line. But even Cincinnati got to Ryan Tannehill and frustrated him and made him throw the football, before he necessarily wanted to, and got into tip drills down the field and to cause interceptions. So Cincinnati just outplayed Tennessee really on all fronts, and they made the kicks when it counted. They made the plays when it counted. And it'll be cool to see them in the AFC Championship game. Even as a Steelers fan, I've got a good friend that's a Bengals fan. He said, this is our only shot. This is my only shot to see my team in the AFC Championship game because y'all are going to get Rodgers in the offseason. I said, okay, I wish you're right on that, but that's not going to happen. But congratulations, and I'm actually rooting for you guys. So, hey, Cincinnati, Kansas City will be fun to watch.
Yeah, Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, so two things that stood out in the game. I said before the game, Jamar Chase had a great game, but I said, watch out because there's probably going to be double coverage. And one of my prop bets was T. Higgins, and he came through. I said, you got to utilize him. Nice. On the other end with Tennessee, this was Derrick Henry's first game back, right? So as a Tennessee coach, you got to think that, we have to have other weapons than Derrick Henry. So they gave it to him 20 times, and you can't rely on one person. He's not going to be 100%, and that was a huge issue during the game. Burrow was so, as I said, calm and collective the whole time. This is a second-year quarterback, really like 1.5 years because he was hurt last year. He was fantastic. He didn't throw one passing touchdown. Cincinnati still won the game. If he could connect next game, and listen, it's going to be very tough to go into Kansas City and win, but the offensive line has to step up. You can't be sacked 9 times, but even despite that, they kept their composure and they won the game. And they utilized different people. Mixon, too. The previous game, he wasn't really a factor, but he started to get his groove back, right? So they utilized more people, and that's how they won.
One of my keys in my VIP analysis I sent to my clients was, don't trust Derrick Henry. It's his first game back.
Exactly.
In over 2.5 months. It's not that he's not talented. He's the best back in the league when he's healthy. But come on. You're asking too much of him in his first game back. We saw what Cam Akers did coming off a torn Achilles in his first game. I was really surprised how well he played, but he didn't play very much. Right. And it worked out to his advantage because he came back in the second game. He was able to come back 1 week prior, obviously, which helped him. But Cam Akers, is establishing himself once again as an RB1 prior to the offseason, which I think is a strong outlook on him. We all know Derrick Henry is going to be an RB1 going into next year, but are people going to be more down on him because of how he finished the season? So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I thought they didn't use Foreman enough. He seemed like he was running really hard for Tennessee. If they would have given him the ball 10 times, maybe more of a 50-50 split even with Henry, I think they could have produced a lot more. And then I take two things out of the game is the third and one call when they're in shotgun and Tannehill does the RPO. I thought that was a terrible call. If you're going to have Henry out there and he's going to be your guy, line it up, hand it off to him, let him try to get a yard.
No matter which way it looks. They did that a couple times, though, and he got stuffed.
Yeah.
But a couple key fourth downs.
Yeah. Well, I would have had him out there. I just would have had, if you're going to do it, you're going to go for it on fourth down, at least give it to him on third down.
Right.
Or have Foreman in there. Foreman had a good run for them. He did a good job. And then I thought the big thing is I thought A.J. Brown had a really great game. He had, I think it was $142. in receiving yards. I'm surprised he didn't throw him that ball on that third down with 20 seconds. He forced it into the number 3 receiver there. That seemed like there was like 5 Cincinnati Bengals around that play. And to your point, Andrew, he definitely did have pressure on Tannehill on that point, but he started the game. He started the game with a pick. He started the second half with a pick, and he ended the game with a pick. I mean, he just, the fans in Tennessee, I think, are done with him. I think they feel he's the reason they're not in the AFC Championship today, and I think that's another spot where Aaron Rodgers is going to have some people interested in him.
And keep in mind, when they did go to the AFC Championship game a couple years ago, it was not on the arm of Ryan Tannehill. It was on the legs of a healthy Derrick Henry.
Correct.
So there's the difference.
Yeah. And then the other thing I didn't realize until I saw it was Tennessee has been the 1 seed 3 times in their history, and they've lost the division game all 3 times. So it's like that 1 seed is like a curse for them. But we started digging into some of the bets that you guys made, prop bets that you did, and one of the big reasons we have Andy here on is because he does have a great analysis program that he's put together. It's very new. He's not even a year old, if I'm correct, but he's very highly productive. Has a tremendous Twitter following. All organic growth. He doesn't do any kind of advertising or anything. This is word of mouth because what he puts out there wins. He if you're over 50% in gambling, that's winning. And he's above that. He takes big pride in his no run first inning. He takes big pride in his over unders in college basketball. So I know Mike wants to really dig into some real good betting questions with Andy, but Andy, let's start off, and I'll throw the first question out to you. Just tell me how this all started for you, and what was your thought process behind it?
Yeah, it's funny because going back to what we've done in the past, Vince, with OPSN, Outside Pitch Sports Network, and our podcast, I was looking to get into something, but I didn't know exactly what. And, sports betting just became live in the state of Virginia January 21st of 2021. So just over a year ago, Virginia launched, and I was always betting on Bovada and, those offshore books. And I just loved the thrill of, having a financial interest, a small, responsible financial interest in a game. It just makes watching the game even more special, right? When you have some skin in the game, it makes watching the game even more fun and attractive. So when Virginia launched in late January last year, I got into the thick of it. I kind of got myself familiar with the domestic sports books, right? Signing up for all of them. And Virginia really has done a model job of how really a state should launch. They started with FanDuel, followed up with DraftKings, BetMGM, and a slew of others. WinBet, Unibet, Bet Rivers is in here, and PointsBet just launched about a month ago, I believe, and Barstool is here as well. So I don't know how many sports books you guys have currently that are live in Virginia, or New York, but we have a slew of them down here in Virginia, and they opened up gradually. Like we had about 3 or 4 at the beginning, and then a couple launched, about a month or 2 in, and we're still getting a few. So Virginia, like I said, has done a model job. I know some states like New Hampshire only do exclusively with DraftKings. So I like the competitiveness. I like the market that Virginia allows. It allows for line shopping, essentially, right? When you have multiple books, you can go out and search for the best pricing for each game or the best line for each game. So that I think is an advantage as well. And for me, that, a good friend of mine, Vince, you know him, Shane Miller, give him a shout out. He said, man, you do really good with this, man. Like if you put your analysis and your picks out on Twitter, you could probably get a pretty solid following. I'm like, okay. So I started with what I called the Vicki Parlay. And that was a daily parlay of about 3 or 4 legs. I try to keep it 3. Manageable, have a chance to cash. And then if you go 4, 5, 6 legs, then you're just, setting yourself up for failure. But I did about 3 legs every day. It consisted of whether it be hockey or basketball. Baseball was just starting up. It was basically opening day when I launched my account. And it started out well. I got some people tailing, but then you get on a losing streak, right? You get that beginner's luck at the beginning, and then you kind of fall on your face a little bit. And I'm like, I have to change this up. So instead, I did have my account initially called the Vicki Parlay. So instead, I said, I have to change this up. I have to do single bets. I have to reinvent myself because people are just going to stop tailing me because I'm losing these parlays every day. It's just not the best way to go about it. So I said, okay, let's change it to ViggyBets. And ViggyBets has a nice little ring to it, I think, at least anyways. And I started doing, baseball, hockey, basketball combination. And I didn't start out very well, but I saw this bet called NRFI. I'm like, what the hell is this? Like NRFI. It's called no run first inning. And that's exactly how it sounds. You're predicting both teams to not score in the first inning. And once I started it, I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop. It is the best bet you can ever make. It's the most, you're sweating to death because any pitch is a home run. Imagine betting a Yankees NRFI at Yankee Stadium. And you have Judge, you have Stanton,
Yep.
You have all those guys coming up in the bottom of the first inning after the opposing team goes scoreless in the top of the first. And you have those guys coming up in the first inning. Now, actually,
against a lefty,
an NRFI wagon, actually, for much of the season because they didn't score in the first inning. But you have that home run power of Stanton, of Judge, and it's the biggest sweat of your life. And so I started doing it. I'm like, I have to do this because this is going to give me – this is a niche, right? This is a niche where I can actually gain some followers here if I'm successful, if I can find the right recipes. And for the first couple months, I was doing really well. Like April and May and into the late May, I was doing really, really well. I was like, people starting following me, like, tail this dude. This guy's amazing. Then June hits. June was just the worst month for NRFIs. The weather started getting warmer. The temperature started getting warmer. And what happened? The spin rate, the spin scandal, the spin rate and all that kind of came out in the limelight. And when that happened, it just started to tail downhill because you had all these pitchers who were using, whatever foreign substance it was, the sticky stuff, as they called it. Really, they couldn't use it anymore. They would get caught. The umpires were looking for it. And I think that had a huge effect on NRFIs not cashing. It was just not going well. So I'm like, okay, I'm actually falling off the wagon here. I have to find a different approach here with these NRFIs because I want to continue betting them. You have the NRFIs, and then you actually, on the flip side, have what's called the YRFIs, which is yes run first inning. Yes, there's a bet for that as well. So I started doing that too, and I was cashing. Not as much, at the beginning. I was very careful with those, but I started cashing with those as well. And then once the All-Star break came, I took a little break from NRFIs towards the end of the All-Star, before the All-Star break, because they just were not hitting. So I started doing YRFIs. And then once the All-Star break came, I had about a week to really kind of hone in and say, what stats do I look at from a pitching standpoint? And I only look at from a pitching standpoint. I don't look at the lineup and say, these guys are in the lineup today. I'm not doing it. I only focus on the pitching matchups for each game. and what that entails. So I created a chart, and I don't want to go too deep into it. I don't want to give my secret sauce away, but I looked at these about, I would say, 12 to 13 statistics that go into it on a daily basis for pitching. And I formulated it all together. And I said, if I can get 10 out of 12 for both pitchers, it's an automatic. If I can get 9 out of 12, it's an automatic. Or if I can get at least 8, it's a play. So it all comes down to how I add up all the numbers. And once I started doing that, I was cashing tickets left and right. And that's really how I got my following during a baseball season, and was just cashing tickets, like I said, left and right. And I did 55% for the season. And that was my sole bet during the baseball season, was no run first inning. And I did some YRFIs as well. And I did fairly well with that. But NRFIs are the sweat. So I was really doing well with that. I cashed 63% of my NRFIs from the post All-Star break to the end of the season.
It's great. That's a great story. Let me ask you. When you talk about these NRFIs, what kind of payouts do you get? So let's just say Yankees, Red Sox, Cole Sale are the pitchers, right? What kind of line would that be?
It's funny because at certain points of the season I was hammering Cole, and at some other points in the season I was fading. I instantly saw a Cole start, and I said, "Nope, I can't do it." So it goes based on season trends and recent trends as well. It all factors in. But for the most part, on the domestic sports books, you will get solid juice. Like if we have a really good pitching matchup, like two aces going at it that are on their game, and it's a strong NRFI play, you might see it minus 130, minus 135, somewhere in that range. The sports books that are offshore are going to have it worse than that. They kind of don't want you to bet them, they discourage you from doing it because of the juice on the pricing for it. But I found that DraftKings and Caesars have some of the best pricing for NRFIs. I actually saw that BetMGM has some of the worst pricing for domestic NRFIs as of last season. So definitely check out DraftKings and Caesars. I really liked a lot. Caesars had, in my opinion, the best for pricing for NRFIs. I don't know if you guys have Caesars Sportsbook in New York yet. Used to be William Hill, for those who are familiar with that brand. So
yeah, so Mike's in New Jersey, so he has every sports book that's been invented. New York right now has 4. They have FanDuel, DraftKings, BetMGM, and BetRivers, and I think Caesars and BetMGM. Yeah, just so there's 5 now. There's 5. Yeah, they're gonna have 9 altogether. The way they design the licensing, it'll be 9. And then the state of New York, and I don't know if it's for every state how it works, but the actual physical server for the betting operation has to sit in a casino in the state. So they end up having like Caesars, or BetMGM own casinos throughout New York. I think there's 3 or 4 licensed casinos in the state. So they'll have their servers sit there, and then they work out deals with FanDuel, DraftKings, and whoever else to have the physical server sit in those casinos. And I think the same thing for New Jersey. I think most of the sports books all sit in Atlantic City, if I'm correct with that also. So which makes sense. Yeah. But I mean it's been it's been amazing already for New York. They launched January 8th to January 16th. The first round of numbers came out, and they did $603 million, and basically 4 or 5 sports books. So you figure. Yeah, so you figure, 120 million.
You could tell there was an itch for it. People were very anxiously waiting for it. And then if you're the New York, the lawmakers in New York, like, what took so long? Why did we wait so long to do this? Like, after seeing all these numbers and revenue, like,
yeah, well, welcome to New York, right? But yeah, I mean, New York is the largest populated state now that has legalized online sports books. So we'll see if California catches on to it, and Texas and Florida and whoever else, because they see
Florida did for a short minute. They came out with Hard Rock had a sports book, and the Seminole Tribe basically shut that down about a couple weeks into their launch. So they're trying to work on getting it back, but I know FanDuel and some of the other books are trying to get into that state.
Yeah, it's been great, So, Mike, I know you got a bunch of questions there. Go ahead, shoot them.
I do. I know we're running short on time, but first of all, Andy, congrats on all this. I mean, I always, gambling is so interesting to me with all the algorithms and analytics. I had no idea of this no run first. I mean, I never even heard of that.
You've got to try it. Man. I'm telling you, when the season starts, if and when it starts, we can. We didn't even talk about the lockout, which is good. Hopefully it comes to an end soon. But, when baseball season comes back, you have to try it. And I'll even give you a free week or free month on my VIP when the season starts. So that way you can see, my NRFIs, and hopefully we can tail and cash together, because I want to get you guys in love with it just as much as I am. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So I guess my question for our audience, Andy, if they go to ViggyBets, I know there's a subscription service. What are they going to get for that? How many picks, per day? Can you talk to our audience about that?
Absolutely. So my VIP is through a company called Dub Club, DUBCLUB, Dub Club. It's a platform where, instead of getting picks like DM to you or whatever on Twitter, or say if I'm, doing my free service like I did up until, 3 weeks ago, just posting it on Twitter, and it's so easy to miss. Every pick that I make through my Dub Club platform is texted right to your phone. And I think that's a huge advantage. And I think sports bettors are really digging that, because they are signing up for the service and the plays are texted right to your phone. So there's no way you can miss it. There's no way. It's like a standard text message, rates apply, obviously, to your phone, and you can see it right there. You click on it and you can see the pick. You can see the analysis. It's straight up right there, and you can go ahead and make your pick. And it's that easy. That's all you got to do. So I really like that platform. I was very careful with how I wanted to go with, and start my VIP service. And I think they're a really great company, really great and growing team. And I do about 3 to 6 plays a day. I'm not a volume. I started out in my early inexperienced days as a volume bettor. I wanted to have like 20 to 30 bets a day. I wanted $2 bets on 30 games. And I said, you know what? I can't deal with that mentally. Like, my mental health cannot do that. So I searched the landscape, and I'm all about value betting. I want to find 3 to 6 plays a day where I am the most confident on, that I can get the best pricing for. And on my plays, you will see each play, you will see extensive analysis on why I'm choosing that play. So if you don't have time to research it, you have my analysis, and you can feel confident about making that selection, because I'm not just going to give you a play without any analysis and say,
based on statistics,
take it. I've got to feel comfortable with it, because I bet it too. I'm not one of those guys that will just say, oh, here's a play, Bulls -1.5, and not play it. If I'm giving you a play, I'm playing it, and I'm 100% confident in the play. So if I can't expect others to tail me if I'm not playing it myself, if that makes sense.
No, it does. I want to touch upon real quickly something that Andy said before earlier in the show about teasers. Yeah. And this is something that I love, actually, because he had mentioned that he bet all underdogs. And just so our audience understand what a teaser is, basically, let's say, for example, next week, for example, Kansas City is -7 against Cincinnati at home. Makes sense. I'm surprised they're not more, as a matter of fact, but we'll get
I've
into
seen
that.
7.5, but yeah,
Okay.
that's where it is.
But essentially what a teaser does is it gives that team points. So you could do 6, 6.5, 7. I know on some sites you can even go higher. But essentially what that does is instead of Kansas City winning by 7, they could essentially win by just 1 or break even. So yes, you get less odds, but with a parlay type bet, it adds up. You could get to like plus 450. It's a very smart bet. Like what Andy said is he knew those games were going to be close,
Right.
and he did a teaser. So for you newcomers to betting, it's a very interesting type bet. Don't don't get annoyed that your odds are going to fall, because it just gives you a better shot of something that you think is going to be close, get you right in there. And you could always make a side bet of all the regular point spreads, but do that for yourself too, kind of like an insurance bet.
Right.
Bottom line is it's a lot of fun. So
it is, yeah. And there
are
some domestic sports books that offer teasers specifically. A couple that I know, Barstool does teaser, the actual teaser, traditional teaser option. And so does Caesars. Caesars does as well. Those are the two that I know of. Most traditional sports books will offer a 6-point teaser. So like you said, if you're picking on the Bengals on the teaser side, it would jump from plus 7 to plus 13.
Yeah.
And then say you're picking San Francisco plus 3.5, that would shoot up to plus 9.5. So it's a 6-point teaser. Most of those books offer it at minus 120, which is not bad. I mean,
no, it's not.
You're getting, you have to cash both of them, obviously, but you're moving the line 6 points and you're only paying 20 cents for it. So to me, it's not a bad bet at all. But actually, Barstool has really great value on teasers. I'll give you an example. My teaser I did on Saturday, which was the 2 underdogs, right? It was San Francisco. I believe it was up to 11.5, and Cincinnati to plus 10, which is what I got, at the end result. That was at minus 103. It was a 6-point teaser at minus 103, which I thought was incredible. I'm getting almost even money on underdogs at, double digits when I expect both of them to win outright. It was too easy. And then even on Sunday, I did it the same thing. I did Buffalo up to 7.5, I believe it was, and the Rams, I teased them. That was at minus 115, but still solid value on pretty much. I don't want to call it a stone cold lead pipe lock, but they were. Even though the Bills lost, game went into overtime, that was guaranteed at 7.5. So teaser bet is great for football. Don't do it for basketball. I know people do it for basketball. 4 points is not that big of not that big of a
especially
move.
with foul shots at the end.
Exactly. So don't do it for basketball, but for football, either college or pro is a strong way to play.
So let's New York is getting the sports book, right? They added 1.2 million accounts on top of generating that money, 1.2 million new accounts, because you could have opened an account in New Jersey and bet over there. So they so for the 1.2 million people that are really starting, right? Maybe a lot of them have bet offshore, like you said, but the majority of them are starting out in the betting. What sport would you recommend them to bet on? Or what kind of bet would you recommend them just as a start, right? So somebody wants to bet $10, just to start. Where would you look for them to do that?
Well, I mean, it's a hard question to answer because you're gambling. Either way, you're gambling, right? It's never, nothing's a guarantee. And parlays I will say parlays are not the answer. I'm not a fan of parlays. I'll do them for fun occasionally. Like I'll do like a giveaway for, I'll put a tweet out there during the big game or whatever and say if this same game parlay or if this parlay cashes, I'll give one member or I'll give one lucky winner, a follower, of free VIP for a year. I'll do fun stuff like that, but I never recommend doing parlays because it's just you set yourself up for failure. So if you're new at that, don't do that because it's going to give you a sour feeling, especially if you do a 3 or 4 leg and you lose by 1 leg. It's just going to make you feel miserable. Where instead, if you did those singular bets, right, and if you did a four leg parlay and just did 4 single bets of those games or of those teams, whatever you're betting on, and you go 3-1, you're profiting. And I think that's what, people want to have fun and have fun doing it. This betting is fun, so definitely make it fun for yourself. But at the end of the day, your wife's got to say, okay, are you making money or not? And you want to be able to say yes. So you want to make yourself profitable. So go out, do the research, have fun with it, and don't do parlays, do singular bets. Because like I said, if you do a 5-leg parlay, and then if you do those 5 singular bets and you win 4 out of 5 of them, you're profiting and you're having fun doing it. So stay away from the parlays, do single bets, whether it's over-unders or prop bets or spreads, whatever you do, whatever you like, whatever you enjoy, do it, but do it responsibly.
Yeah, no, I think that do it responsibly is the key message there, right? I mean, that's always the key message. I know we're running time here, so I wanted to we're on this betting portion of it, and we got championship week coming up. As you guys have mentioned, the Chiefs are a 7-point favorite on the DraftKings Sportsbook. I used the DraftKings odds, that's what I pulled up before the show. So -7 there, over under 54.5 on that. And then the Rams, San Francisco, -3.5, over under 46.5. I don't think we gave as much love for San Francisco today. We didn't dive too deep into what they did against the Packers. So maybe let's start with the Rams Niners game. Mike, some of your feelings on that 3.5-point spread.
Yeah, you know what? I said this to you earlier, Vinny, when I was texting you. I feel if there's going to be an upset, that this is the game that I feel more of an upset than the Kansas City Bengals game. As we talked about before, this is a 49ers team that has beaten the Rams. Why can't they do it again? They've played outstanding defense. I think this will be another close game. Stafford has been great, but I think it will be close. However, I do think the Rams are going to win. And was it 3.5?
Yeah. Maybe this is.
I think this is going to be the trend. I think
teaser.
This could be I'm going to use the teaser here. I'm going to use a teaser here. I'll use a 6-point teaser and take the 49ers plus 9.5. But in all seriousness, I think that the trend last week was all these walk-off field goals, and I could see it in this game. I think it's going to be close again. The lesson of this year is don't count those 49ers out.
Yeah.
Garoppolo, he's an okay quarterback, but you know what he does? He's got heart, and he just knows how to stay in the game, and their defense has been fantastic. So as a bettor here, I'm going to take a teaser to be safe, 6 points. But I think it could be like one of those 3-point games again.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I agree. And without, I'll pretty much give it to you straight. I mean, it comes down to me again. This is going to be a close game, and I've done teasers before where I think I'm going to pick who I believe is actually going to win the game. And the thought process about that is sometimes for teaser purposes that comes back to bite you, because I'll think about the fact that the Chiefs are -7. You pretty much bring that down to, if you do a 6-point teaser to -1, you basically are saying, I think the Chiefs are going to win the game. Whereas, do you think the game, and you got to really ask yourself, do you think the game is going to be close? Because if you think the game is going to be close within a touchdown, let's say, take Cincinnati plus 13 instead of Kansas City -1, because if you believe in your whole heart of hearts it's going to be a close game, what's it matter if Kansas City wins by 1 or by 3 or by 4? You have 13 as a cushion, and you don't have to worry about it. You can just relax and watch the game. So like I said, there's ways to look at it from a teaser standpoint. I go back to a teaser standpoint because I think it's important that people think about it, especially, in your market. You have new bettors up in New York that like the teaser, that may like the teaser option, and are thinking about the teaser option. Again, I think this game's going to be close with the 49ers and the Rams. I'm going with the underdog, and it proved me well last weekend. I just did underdogs for each teaser because I think all the games are going to be close. So why sweat out bringing the favorite down?
Yeah.
Just a thought.
Yeah. I mean, my feeling on the game itself is the 49ers have beaten the Rams both times this year. I think they've won 6 in a row or something like that. But, I like to reflect on this year. And this 49ers team is a physical team, and they like to run the ball. They like to smash in the mouth. One of the weaknesses on the Rams is they're not tremendously big up front. Besides Aaron Donald, the rest of the defensive line is not that big. You're able to run the ball. Shanahan has very unique running schemes for the Niners. I think Mitchell has shown to be a really solid rookie. That was a really good draft pick there by Lynch late in the draft. But I think the emergence of Deebo Samuel and what they've done with him has been very unique. I think the NFL, which is a copycat league, I think you're going to see a lot of teams look for that kind of player for themselves, where you can have that wide receiver where you can't really run your base defense, with a spread and a wide receiver in the backfield. You have to have an additional cornerback in there, and they take advantage of that. And I think that's what you're going to see the Niners try to do, is continue to take advantage of those matchups. And I like the Niners to win outright in this one. I really do. I think they do. I know the third game, right?
Yes, but there's 2 injuries that came out of that game for San Francisco, which I'm not too concerned about because I think both players will end up playing. His left tackle, Trent Williams, who was on crutches after the game, but I think his x-rays came back negative, so I'm thinking he'll be good. And then Deebo Samuel, the ultimate weapon for San Francisco, got hurt, I think, in the second half. And so we just have to watch out for that this week. But I'm already a huge fan of San Francisco winning outright. And maybe that's just because they've done it the last few times and it's easy to go and say that. But again, you're looking at 3.5. You think it's going to be a field goal game either way. It's easy to take the 3.5 hook.
Yeah. Yep. And I'm hoping I can finally prove that, Matt Stafford isn't as good as everyone thinks he is.
Put pressure on him. And
that's right.
I just want to say one thing about Stafford. The thing I forgot to say in that last game that impressed me. When Tampa tied the game at 27, when they got the ball back, right? He was stacked on that first play. So they could have just taken a knee and just say, let's go into overtime. But they had the confidence in Stafford and what he was able to get them down the field. And I think that's a testament to him. I think people are not really talking about that, but that was impressive. They could have taken a knee.
That's absolutely a good point. McVay had full confidence in him, and he made the next 2 throws to Kupp, right? The one the deep in pattern, and then the streak with cover 0, which I just think I don't know how you don't have safeties over the top of Cooper Kupp, but it is what it is. All right, and then I don't know if you do over-unders, Andy. Do you do over-underers with football? I know college basketball is your thing.
For football, I tend to get burned a lot with over-underers with football, so I try to stay away from that. If anything, I'll do it on the teaser because just like spread, you can tease the over down and the under up. So you can do it. You can do that as well, and I sometimes do that. But I still tend to get burned on over-unders, whether it's on the teaser level or just standard. So I do tend to stay away from football over-unders, especially in college. So college also.
Yeah. All right. -7. Chiefs, Bengals. I'll start real quick. I just think this is a game where it just plays into Kansas City's hands. I think Cincinnati's a little young. Their offensive line is definitely suspect. It's going to be a difficult game to go into Kansas City. They're young on both ends of the field. I think Mahomes has just got that juice going. I think this is easily could be a double-digit win for the Chiefs. I'm gonna, I would go somewhere like 31-21 kind of Chiefs win.
Yeah. I agree with you on this one. I'm strongly with the Chiefs -7. I think they take this one pretty easily. I just look back at this, Cincinnati game, and as great as Burrow played, they had a very lackluster offensive line with 9 sacks. And, you go into Kansas City, it's not going to get any easier. So I feel that they have a lot of momentum after that Buffalo win. Mahomes is playing the best football he's played. And I do think they take it. I think your final score looks good to me. 31, 31-21, maybe even something in that area. I agree with you, Vinny.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I like I said, I'm a huge teaser guy, so I like the thought of teasing both underdogs here in the spot. I do agree with your sentiments though on the Cincinnati Kansas City game. I think Kansas City, if we're gonna see a favorite win, it's probably gonna be them. But I wouldn't count out Cincinnati just yet. If they can establish the run with Joe Mixon, allow their offense to flow, not get stuck on 3 and outs, and actually do well on third down. That's the biggest key there for Cincinnati offensively, because what we saw, especially early on in that game against the Titans, was that Joe Burrow was getting pressure left and right thrown at him on third down. He was getting sacked on third down. So that's the key. Keep moving the ball, keep moving the change, keep Patrick Mahomes on the sideline, and utilize Joe Mixon to drain that clock and play physical with Kansas City. If they can do that, the game will be close and they could win outright. But if Patrick Mahomes, if they commit a couple turnovers and Mahomes gets a couple extra possessions, look out. It's going to be tough sled, and it's going to be Kansas City.
Yeah. All right. If you're interested, people, in any kind of sports betting and you're new to betting and you need some help, ViggyBets is definitely the place to go. If you're somebody that's been betting a while and looking at college basketball now and over unders, Andy puts out a lot of over unders with college basketball. He shows you on his Twitter and his Instagram on how he's doing. He shows you everything. Post his service. It's a great service. You can go onto his Twitter, which is at ViggyBets. You can go on his Instagram, which is the same at ViggyBets. He's got a tremendous service. I think you get the first 3 days free.
3 days free. Yep, at $9.99 a month, which is insane value. You will see many, especially for your new bettors, they're going to find out that VIP services are expensive, and they better be cashing tickets left and right. If you're paying $50 to $100 a month, if not more, my service is only $9.99 a month with 3 days free, by the way. And we're cashing these CBB over-unders at a rate of 67.5% since I've created my VIP, and we're 18-6 on the over-unders in the last 24. So that's 75% cash in. It's a straight-up model. I'll give you the analysis. If you join the VIP, you'll get the plays texted right to you with the analysis, with the plays. And I try to do it as soon as I finish the analysis. I try to do it right away, so that way you can get the best line. You can get the line that I get, because sometimes they do move. So you might get multiple texts throughout the day, but at least you're getting them quick to the point, and you can cash, and you can put them in right away. So
yeah, I mean,
I think it's the best value out there.
I mean, just to think, everybody out there, if you played those last 24 plays, 18-6, let's just say you bet $10 each one of them, figure out what you would have made. Your $10 a month subscription, actually your whole year subscription is paid very, very quickly.
It's nearly paid, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean you're paying 30 cents a day for what you're getting, and you're getting like you said, 3 to 6 plays a day.
$9.99 a month for 12 months is just under $120. I do have a $99.99. I love the 9, by the way. $99.99 for a yearly subscription if you wanted to do that. So you're basically saving $20 off your subscription if you decided to just jump in and do an annual subscription. So
think about that. For $99.99, you're locked in now through the Super Bowl, through March Madness, through Major League Baseball,
through my NRFIs,
back to college football and the NFL, and you're right back here in the Super Bowl again. And that brings your price down to $8 a month, right? Instead of $10, and you can figure out it's simple math. So a few of
either
these
way, it's the best value out there, because I'm not charging you an arm and a leg, and you're cashing at a rate of over 60+% on these over under. So NRFIs coming up.
So with that said, Andy, appreciate it. Happy to have you on here. Like we said at the beginning, and I know you're a long time. We did a lot of fun stuff back in the day, and hope to have you on again. Maybe as March Madness rolls in, we can definitely have you come in and talk more, and maybe we can even talk about other things offline on how we can get ViggyBets. Maybe some other ways of promotion and stuff. But with all that, really appreciate you coming on. Mike, any last second things from you?
Yeah, speaking of over-under, our over-under was 1 episode, so we made it to 2. So.
Well, 1.5. 1.5, really.
1.5, that's right. 1.5. We made it. We're doing great. This has been a lot of fun. Andy, thanks so much. It was really nice meeting you.
And nice meeting you too. Yeah, no, you guys have a good show. Good things coming for you, and I'm sure I'll be listening moving forward, and hopefully, like I said, get to come back on multiple times. Yeah, absolutely. And even if you want to pop on for something special, just shoot us a text, and we'll more than happy to bring you on at any time. So again, thank you, everyone. Thanks for listening to episode 2. We'll be back next week with episode 3. Everyone have a great time. See you then.